The first rays of dawn painted golden streaks across Nico Hawthorne's modern kitchen, reflecting off the polished granite countertops and floor-to-ceiling windows. At 35, he had achieved what most people spend lifetimes chasing. Sinclair Technologies, his startup-turned-tech empire, had just closed another record-breaking deal. The sleek smart home system he designed adjusted the temperature automatically, maintaining perfect balance in the 3-story contemporary mansion that stood as a testament to his success. But none of that compared to his greatest achievement, his family. 6 years of marriage to Skylar, and years of watching their daughter, Merrick, grow. That was his real wealth, or so he thought. The subtle scent of brewing coffee filled the air as Nico leaned against the counter and scrolled through emails on his tablet. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the coffee maker, his favorite time of day. Soft footsteps interrupted his reverie. Skylar appeared in the doorway wearing his old Stanford University t-shirt as a nightgown, her honey-blonde hair slightly disheveled from sleep. Even after all these years, the sight of her made his heart skip. She said, "You're up early," as she patted the heated marble floors toward the coffee maker. Her melodic voice carried warmth, but her posture seemed too rigid and controlled. "Big day ahead," Nico replied as he set down his tablet. He moved to embrace her from behind, a morning ritual they had shared countless times, but Skylar smoothly sidestepped him and reached for a mug in the cabinet. Her movement was casual yet deliberate. "The family gathering, remember?" she said while pouring coffee with practiced precision, not meeting his eyes. "Your mother has been planning this barbecue for weeks. Marlo Hawthorne does nothing halfway. Lachlan is flying in from Seattle," Nico mentioned, watching her reaction carefully. "He says he has big news to share," he added. The mug trembled in Skylar's hand as dark liquid sloshed near the rim. "Oh." Her voice lifted an octave. "Did he say what kind of news?" she asked, edged with surprise. "Since when does my little brother reveal anything before his dramatic announcements?" Nico attempted a laugh, but the sound died in his throat as he caught a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "I should get Merrick ready," she said abruptly, already turning away. "You know how she is with her morning routine. Heaven forbid we put the pink bow in her hair when she wants the purple one," she added, her tone slightly off. Nico's voice made her pause at the doorway. "Is everything okay? You seem distant lately," he asked. She turned back with a practiced smile. "Everything's perfect. I'm just tired from project deadlines at work," she lied smoothly. "Speaking of which, I had a late client meeting tonight." "Again," Nico said in a neutral tone. "That's the third this week. The Wilson account is crucial. We can't afford to lose it." Skylar crossed the kitchen and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek, a gesture that felt more like obligation than affection. "Don't worry so much. Focus on today. It's going to be a wonderful family gathering," she urged. As she disappeared upstairs, Nico touched his cheek where her lips had brushed. The spot felt cold and empty, like the growing void in his chest where certainty once lived. The sound of small feet thundering down the hallway announced Merrick's approach before she burst into the kitchen like a whirlwind in pink pajamas. "Daddy," she exclaimed as she launched herself at him. Nico caught her and swung her up into his arms. Her golden curls, so much like Skylar's, bounced with the movement. "Can we have pancakes? Please, please, please," she pleaded. "Of course, princess," he replied as he settled her on a kitchen stool and began gathering ingredients. While he worked, she chattered excitedly about showing her cousins her new treehouse at the barbecue. Looking at her animated face, Nico felt a surge of love and pride. She was perfect, clever, spirited, and beautiful. But for the first time, a treacherous thought slipped through his defenses. Was she really his? In the afternoon sun, Nico pulled his Tesla into the circular driveway of the Hawthorne family estate. The sprawling Georgian-style mansion, with manicured lawns and classical fountains, reminded him of old money and deeper roots. Sterling had built his own empire in real estate, setting a standard that both his sons had strived to meet. "Look, Grandma's put up lights," Merrick said excitedly from her car seat, pointing at string lights crisscrossing the expansive patio. The scent of grilling meat wafted through the air, mingling with the fragrance of Marlowe's prize rose garden. Skylar smoothed her cream silk dress and checked her reflection in the visor mirror. "Merrick, honey, remember what we talked about. Best behavior today, okay?" Skylar called softly. "I know, Mommy. No running inside, and no getting my dress dirty," Merrick recited, though her eyes sparkled with mischief. Nico helped Merrick out of the car. A sleek black Porsche pulled up behind them, and his chest tightened. He recognized Lachlan's car immediately. His younger brother stepped out wearing designer sunglasses and looked every bit the successful Seattle architect. "Uncle Lachlan." Merrick broke free from Nico's grasp and ran toward him. Lachlan scooped her up with practiced ease and a wide, genuine grin. "There's my favorite niece," he said while glancing over Merrick's head at Skylar. Their eyes met for a fraction, too long before both looked away. "Your only niece," Skylar said, her voice carrying a strange undertone that Nico could not place. "Brother," Lachlan finally acknowledged Nico, while shifting Merrick to his hip. "The company's stock is soaring. You must be pleased," he remarked. "Can't complain," Nico replied, extending his hand for a handshake and noticing Lachlan's grip was looser than usual. "How's Seattle treating you?" "Expanding the firm to San Francisco," Nico asked. "Actually, I might be around more often," Lachlan replied, his eyes flickering to Skylar, who had become intensely focused on adjusting Merrick's hair bow. Suddenly, the front door burst open, and Marlo Hawthorne emerged, elegant as always in a tailored pantsuit. "My boys and my precious girls," she exclaimed as she embraced each of them in turn, a trail of expensive jasmine perfume following her. "Everyone's waiting in the back. Sterling is attempting to master the new grill heaven. Help us all," Marlo said. The backyard had been transformed into an entertainer's paradise with white linen-covered tables centered by fresh flower arrangements. Sterling stood at the massive stainless steel grill, spatula in hand, surrounded by admiring relatives. "Nico," Sterling boomed across the yard, "come tell your old man if I'm doing this right. These new digital controls are beyond me." As Nico approached the grill, he glanced back to see Lachlan setting Merrick down. The little girl ran off to join her cousins while Lachlan and Skylar exchanged an intense, whispered conversation. "Everything all right, son?" Sterling asked, drawing Nico's attention back. His father studied him with unusual intensity. "Fine," Nico replied shortly as he focused on the grill's digital display. "You've got the temperature too high for those steaks," he noted. He adjusted the settings, trying to ignore the knot forming in his stomach throughout the afternoon. Nico became hyper-aware of every interaction between his wife and his brother. He noticed how Skylar's laugh carried across the yard when Lachlan told a story, how they both reached for the same serving spoon, their hands briefly touching before jerking apart. The whispered conversation ceased abruptly when he approached them near the drink coolers. "Everything okay?" he asked as he slid an arm around Skylar's waist. This time, she did not pull away, though her muscles tensed beneath his touch. "Just catching up," Lachlan said too quickly. "It's been months since I've seen my favorite sister-in-law," he added. "Your only sister-in-law?" Skylar forced a laugh that carried a weight Nico could not ignore. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn, Nico found himself alone on the deck, nursing a glass of Sterling's expensive scotch. Merrick's laughter echoed from the yard, where she played with her cousins, her golden curls catching the last rays of sunlight. The sight that usually filled him with joy now twisted something sharp in his chest. "Your daughter is quite the little charmer," his cousin Weston remarked as he joined Nico at the railing. "Got everyone wrapped around her finger, just like her uncle," Weston added. Nico's grip tightened on his glass. "Oh, you know what I mean. Lachlan has always had that natural charisma." Merrick has it too, the way she makes everyone fall in love with her instantly, he continued. Before Nico could process this, Marlowe's urgent voice carried from the kitchen through the open French doors. He moved closer, his instincts urging him to listen. "We can't keep pretending," his mother said in a low, urgent tone. "Nico deserves the truth," Sterling interjected sharply. "And what about Merrick?" Marlowe's voice cracked as she added, "Look how that worked out for the Daltons when their secret came out. Sometimes, the cover-up does more damage than the truth." "Keep your voice down," Sterling hissed. "This isn't the time or place." Nico's footsteps on the deck silenced them. When they emerged moments later, their faces wore matching masks of forced cheerfulness. "Darling," Marlowe touched his arm, her hand trembling slightly, "would you help Sterling bring out the dessert plates?" "Actually," Nico's voice sounded distant. "I need to make a few work calls." "Excuse me," he said as he retreated to his father's study, closing the heavy oak door behind him. The room smelled of leather and aged books, unchanged since his childhood. How many times had he sat here seeking Sterling's approval, trying to live up to the Hawthorne name? His phone buzzed with a text from Skylar. "Where are you? Merrick is asking for you." Merrick, his daughter, or was she? The thought hit him like a physical blow. It forced him to grip the edge of Sterling's mahogany desk. All the little things he had dismissed over the years suddenly shifted into sharp focus. Merrick's dark eyes, so unlike his or Skylar's, and her natural grace, often attributed to Skylar, could just as easily have come from elsewhere. "There you are." Lachlan's voice made him straighten as his brother stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway lights. "Skylar is looking for you." "Is she?" Nico turned slowly. "Or is she looking for you?" Something flickered across Lachlan's face, guilt or fear, before his usual easy smile returned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You tell me, brother." Nico spat like poison. "You seem to spend an awful lot of time with my wife lately," he accused. Lachlan stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. "You're being paranoid. Skylar and I are just—" "What? Friends? Family?" Nico's laugh was hollow. "Tell me, when did you start caring so much about being a good brother-in-law?" Before Lachlan could respond, Skylar appeared behind him. "There you both are. Merrick is ready for cake, and you know how she gets when—" she began. She stopped, sensing the tension. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," Lachlan said too quickly. "Just catching up. Brother stuff." Nico watched them both, noting how they unconsciously shifted closer, their eyes meeting in silent communication. Had it always been this obvious? "Brother, let's not keep Merrick waiting," he finally said. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Nico went through the motions, singing happy birthday to one of his nieces, making small talk with relatives, and helping to clean up. But his mind kept circling back to his parents' conversation. Over the following week, Nico threw himself into work, spending long hours at the office, unable to escape the growing suspicion in his mind. "Mr. Hawthorne." His assistant Tatum knocked on his office door one evening. "It's past 9. Should I cancel tomorrow morning's meetings?" Nico looked up from his computer, realizing he had stared at the same email for an hour. "No, keep them. But I need a favor, the client dinner list for tonight. Can you send it to me?" Tatum frowned. "There's no client dinner scheduled for tonight or this week, sir," she said. The words hit him like ice water. Skylar had left hours ago, dressed elegantly in a black cocktail dress, claiming she had dinner with the Wilson account executives. "Thank you, Tatum. That'll be all," he replied. After Tatum left, Nico pulled up the tracking app on his phone. He had never used it before, trusting Skylar implicitly. Now, with trembling fingers, he entered their family account details. Skylar's location pinged at the Adler Hotel downtown for several minutes. He sat perfectly still, staring at the blinking dot on his screen. Then, almost mechanically, he gathered his things and headed for the parking garage. The Adler stood illuminated against the night sky with its Art Deco architecture, a landmark of old money and discretion. Nico parked across the street and killed the engine. Through the lobby windows, he watched as Lachlan walked in, heading straight for the hotel bar. His brother looked confident and at ease, as if he had done this many times before. How long? How many times had they met here? Nico's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He wanted to storm in and confront them, to let years of betrayal explode, but instead he took out his phone and began documenting the time, date, and location. If he was going to destroy them, he needed more than suspicion. He needed proof. 2 hours later, he watched them leave separately. First Lachlan, then Skylar 15 minutes after. She drove home, probably rehearsing whatever lies she would tell him about her client dinner. When Skylar walked through their front door at 10:30, Nico was in his home office, pretending to work. "How was the Wilson account?" he asked casually, not looking up from his laptop. "Productive," she replied as she leaned against his doorframe. Her perfume was different from what she wore when leaving. "They're considering increasing their investment next quarter," she added. "Really? That's interesting," Nico said as he finally looked at her, noticing her slightly smudged lipstick and hastily smoothed hair. "Because Tatum told me there were no client dinners scheduled this week," she explained, her face flickering for just a moment before recovering. "Oh, it was last minute. Laurent called this afternoon," she added. "Laurent?" Nico's laugh was sharp. "The Wilson account executives dislike French cuisine. They always insist on steakhouses. You would know that if you had actually met with them." "Nico," she insisted. Skylar stepped forward, but he held up his hand. "Don't," he said. He stood slowly. "I have work to finish. You should check on Merrick," he added. Skylar hesitated, then nodded and turned away. Before she could leave, he added, "By the way, the Adler has security cameras in its lobby. Just thought you should know." She froze for a split second before continuing down the hall, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors like a countdown. The next morning dawned bright and clear, as if nature were mocking his darkening mood. Merrick sat at the kitchen island, happily munching on cereal while Skylar packed her lunch for press school. "I've been thinking," Skylar said carefully as she sliced Merrick's sandwich into triangles. "Maybe it's time we gave Merrick a sibling. We've talked about having another baby." The suggestion hit Nico like a physical blow. He stared at Merrick, really stared at her for the first time since suspicion had taken root. Her dark eyes, so different from his blue ones or Skylar's green ones, and the way she moved with natural grace, once attributed solely to Skylar, haunted him. But then, "Daddy, you're not eating," Merrick said, cutting through his thoughts. Her half-eaten bowl of cereal was forgotten as she watched him with concern. With eyes full of worry, she asked, "Daddy, are you mad at me?" "No, sweetheart, never at you," he replied, forcing a kiss on the top of her head and breathing in the sweet scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Be good at school today," he added. In his car later, Nico sat motionless for several minutes, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. Finally, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Reeves Investigations," came a crisp voice. "This is Nico Hawthorne. I need your services, discreetly," he said. He met Jordan Reeves later that afternoon in a quiet coffee shop far from his usual haunts. Jordan, a sharp-eyed private investigator in a charcoal suit, listened intently as Nico slid an envelope across the table. "I need everything. Phone records, hotel receipts, credit card statements, security footage if you can get it," Nico said quietly. Then he swallowed hard and added, "I need a DNA test." Jordan didn't blink. "For your daughter?" he asked. "Yes," Nico replied. The word felt like ash in his mouth. "I'll need a sample. Hair from her brush will work," Jordan said. Nico nodded tightly. "How long?" he asked. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll be thorough," replied Jordan, pocketing the envelope. "Mr. Hawthorne, People usually want to know right away if their suspicions are correct, Jordan added. Not most people, Nico said, straining his tie. I want everything, every detail, every meeting, every lie. I want to know exactly how long they've been laughing at me. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Nico went through the motions of daily life like an actor in a play. He kissed Skylar goodbye each morning, helped Merrick with her drawings, and attended family dinners where his parents exchanged worried glances when they thought he wasn't looking. Every night after Skylar fell asleep, he lay awake cataloging memories and re-examining them through the lens of suspicion. The business trips that coincided with Lachlan's visits, the hushed phone calls, and the way his family always seemed overly concerned with Merrick's resemblance to Skylar. Then Jordan's report began arriving in encrypted emails. Hotel receipts spanning years, phone records showing hundreds of calls and messages, and security footage from hotel lobbies and restaurants. Each clip was another nail in the coffin of his marriage. Then came the DNA results. Nico sat in his parked car outside the Hawthorne estate, the DNA results burning a hole in his briefcase. He had come seeking answers, confrontation. The warm Sunday afternoon felt surreal, like a dream he couldn't wake from. As he approached the side gate, voices drifted from his mother's rose garden. He slowed, recognition freezing him in place. Merrick is starting to look more like me every day, he thought. Marlowe's voice carried clearly. Skylar and Lachlan need to be more careful. The resemblance to her real father. Lower your voice. Sterling hissed. He deserves to know the truth about his daughter. About everything. His mother's voice cracked with emotion. How long have we known about their affair? Years? And we've said nothing, done nothing, because it would destroy him. Sterling's voice rose before dropping again. You saw what happened to the Sinclair family when their scandal broke. Complete destruction. No, it's better this way, Nico replied coldly. I have my family, my success, built on lies. Marlowe interjected. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, watching Lachlan with Merrick. How can we keep pretending? We do it to protect Nico and Merrick. She's innocent in all this, she insisted. Nico's shoes crunched on gravel, giving him away. His parents' heads snapped up, their faces draining of color when they saw him. Nico. Sterling started forward, hands raised placatingly. Don't you dare try to explain, he shouted. Son, please. Marlowe stepped forward, tears in her eyes. We thought we were protecting you. Protecting me. By watching my wife and brother make a fool of me. By letting me raise another man's child. That's your idea of protection? Nico demanded. It's not that simple, Sterling tried, but Nico pulled the DNA results from his briefcase and let the papers fall at their feet. Merrick isn't mine. Never was, he declared. And you've known all along, he demanded. Haven't you? He accused, watching me play daddy while your precious Lachlan. His voice broke. We never meant. Marlowe reached for him. Don't touch me, he commanded. You're not my parents. Parents protect their children from pain. They don't help inflict it, he added before turning and walking away, ignoring their calls. His phone buzzed with a text from Skylar. Where are you? We're supposed to announce the pregnancy at dinner tonight. Another lie. Another manipulation. His thumb hovered over the phone, tempted to expose everything then. But he had a better plan. That evening, as Skylar prepared for the dinner party, where she planned to announce her pregnancy, Nico felt strangely calm. She hummed as she chose her outfit and practiced her surprised smile in the mirror, unaware that he knew everything. You look beautiful in that black dress, he said, his voice perfectly normal. Skylar beamed at him, and for a moment he saw the woman he had fallen in love with. But that woman had never really existed, had she? She was as much a lie as everything else. I love you, she said, kissing his cheek before heading to the shower. Nico touched the spot where her lips had been, feeling nothing but cold determination. Let them have their dinner party. Let them play their roles one last time. He had all the evidence now: hotel receipts, phone records, DNA results, security footage, bank statements, everything needed to destroy their carefully constructed world of lies. They wanted to play happy families. Fine. He would play along until the moment he burned their entire facade to the ground. And when he was done, none of them would ever recover. The morning sun cast long shadows across Nico Hawthorne's home office as he spread the evidence of his ruined life across his mahogany desk. Hotel receipts spanning years, surveillance photos of intimate moments between his wife and his brother, and bank statements revealing a web of deception lay before him. Each piece was another shard of his shattered world. His phone buzzed for the 13th time that morning. Lakshlan again. Nico watched the screen until it went dark, then played the latest voicemail on speaker. "Brother, please." Lakshlan's voice cracked with desperation. "We need to talk. There's more to this than you know. Call me back, please." Nico's laugh was hollow as he deleted the message. He had spent weeks uncovering every detail of their betrayal, every carefully orchestrated lie. Opening his laptop, he accessed Sinclair Technologies' financial records. As CEO, he had complete control over the company's vast resources he had once shared generously with his family. "Mr. Hawthorne," Tatum's voice came through the intercom. "Jordan Reeves is here for your morning meeting. Send him in." Nico quickly organized the scattered evidence into neat piles as the private investigator entered. Jordan looked sharp in his tailored suit, but the dark circles under his eyes suggested long nights of surveillance. He placed a thick envelope on the desk. "Final report," he said, taking the seat Nico indicated. "You want to be sitting down for this one. That bad?" "Worse." Jordan pulled out a series of photographs. "These are from 6 years ago. Your rehearsal dinner. See the timestamps? They disappeared for 57 minutes. A hotel camera caught you entering the elevator to the bridal suite floor. The night before my wedding," Nico murmured. "It gets better or worse depending on your perspective," Jordan said as he spread out more photos. Regular meetings at the Adler, Lawrence, and various other spots were shown. They got sloppy sometimes, especially early on. They used traceable cards and personal phones. Jordan continued. "Show me everything." For the next hour, Jordan laid out 6 years of betrayal in clinical detail: hotel records, credit card statements, and phone logs from burner phones they thought were untraceable. "The DNA test results are definitive," Jordan said it as he slid over a sealed envelope. "There is a 99.9% probability that Lachlan is Merrick's biological father. But here's what really caught my attention," he added as he pulled out bank statements. "Your parents have been making monthly payments of $10,000 to a private account in Skylar's name, like clockwork, starting the week after Merrick was born." Nico's face went rigid. "They were paying her to keep quiet," Jordan observed. "Looks that way. There's more. Your brother has been funneling money from his architecture firm into the same account, disguised as consulting fees. My whole family, all of you, knew. All conspired," Jordan stated. The intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Hawthorne, your wife is here. She's quite insistent." Nico exchanged looks with Jordan, who quickly gathered his materials. "I'll send the digital copies to your secure server," the PI said as he headed for the side door. "Good luck. Send her in," Nico instructed Tatum. Skylar burst through the door in designer heels, wearing a cream silk blouse and pencil skirt, the perfect image of a successful executive's wife, another lie in her collection. "You've been avoiding my calls," she said, running a hand through her perfectly styled hair. "The dinner party's tomorrow. We need to finalize the guest list. Plus, Merrick has been asking for you. You barely said goodbye this morning." "Sit down," she urged. Nico's voice cut through her chatter like a blade. "What?" "Sit down," he ordered, each word dropping like ice into the suddenly tense air. "Skylar, you're scaring me," she whispered. Nico opened a folder and carefully laid out photos in a neat row. Color drained from her face as she stared at the evidence of her betrayal. Photos of her and Lachlan entering hotels, sharing intimate dinners, and exchanging knowing looks at family gatherings. Years of deception were captured in crisp digital clarity. "I can explain," she whispered, her manicured fingers trembling as she reached for a photo. "Don't touch them," he commanded, making her snatch her hand back. "You know what I find fascinating? The timestamps. See this one?" he asked, tapping a photo. "Our rehearsal dinner. While I was thanking our guests and practicing my vows, you were upstairs with my brother," he accused. "It wasn't. We were drunk," she stammered. "And in this one," he continued as he slid forward another photo. "Merrick's third birthday party. Everyone singing, watching her blow out candles, while you and Lachlan had your own private celebration in the pool house," he said coldly. "Please," she cried, tears spilling down her cheeks and smearing expensive mascara. "It wasn't what you think," she pleaded. "Really?" Nico's laugh was sharp. "Then explain this," he demanded as he slid the DNA results across the desk. "Merrick isn't mine. Never was. Tell me, Skylar, what exactly am I thinking?" he demanded. "We never meant to hurt you," she pleaded, reaching for his hand. But he jerked it away. "It was a mistake," she said. "A mistake," he repeated, standing slowly. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or burning dinner, not having an affair with my brother for years, not letting me believe his child was mine," he declared. "Those aren't mistakes, Skylar. Those are choices," Nico stated bitterly. "I love you, Nico, despite everything I do. Despite having been intimate with my brother the night before our wedding, despite letting you raise his child, despite taking payoffs from my parents to maintain your lies," she sobbed. Her head snapped up. "What? Oh, you didn't think I knew about that?" he demanded, tossing the bank statements at her. $10,000 a month, like clockwork. "Tell me, what was the price of betrayal? Did you and my parents haggle over it?" he demanded. "It wasn't like that. Your mother said it was for Merrick's future, just in case the truth came out, in case your perfect little world of lies crashed down," she replied. His bitter laugh echoed. "Well, congratulations, Skylar. That day has arrived. What are you going to do?" he asked coldly. Skylar's voice trembled as she clutched her designer purse like a shield. "I'm going to," she began. Nico moved to the window, staring out at the city he had conquered. "I'm going to destroy everything, just like you destroyed me," he vowed. "Think about Merrick," she pleaded, desperation edging her voice. "She adores you. You are the only father she's known," she insisted. "Don't." He spun, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare use her against me. You took that when you let me believe she was mine," he thundered. The intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Hawthorne, Mr. Laurent from the bank is online. He says it's urgent. Put him through," the message announced. Nico pressed the speaker button. "Laurent, you're on with my wife and me." "Perfect timing. Tell her what we discussed," he said. A crisp voice filled the room. "Mrs. Hawthorne, as per Mr. Hawthorne's instructions, effective midnight tonight, all joint accounts will be frozen, credit cards canceled, and the prenuptial agreement's infidelity clause activated, transferring all property rights solely to Mr. Hawthorne." Skylar's face went ashen. "You can't," she whispered. "I can, and I have." Nico cut her off. "How does it feel, Skylar, watching your carefully constructed world crumble?" he asked, gesturing to the photos. "Every lie, every betrayal, every moment you and Lachlan laughed behind my back." "We never laughed at you," he continued. Tears streamed down her face. "It wasn't calculated. We fell in love," she insisted. "Love?" Nico exploded. "You want to talk about love? I loved you. I gave you everything. My name, my trust, my future, and you repaid me by being with my brother. It just happened. We tried to stop. But what? he shouted. "Stop it," she pleaded. "You don't get to stop it. You don't get to hide from this," he roared as he grabbed her wrists and forced her hands down. "Look at me. Look at what you've done," he commanded. The office door burst open. Lachlan stood there, breathing hard as if he had run up the stairs. "Let her go, Nico," he pleaded. Nico released Skylar's wrists with a cold smile. "If it isn't the man of the hour, come to protect your lover, or maybe check on your daughter," he sneered. "Brother, please, don't call me that," Lachlan said. Nico roared. "You lost the right to call me brother when you were with my wife." Lachlan stepped into the office and closed the door behind him. "Let's talk about this rationally," he offered. "Rationally?" Nico barked. "Like how you rationally decided to be with my wife, or rationally watched me raise your daughter for 4 years," he challenged. "Merrick loves you," Lachlan said quietly. "Whatever happens between us," he added. Nico moved around the desk with predatory grace. "There is no us anymore. No brotherhood. No family. You made sure of that when you touched my wife," he declared. "I never meant for any of this to happen," Lachlan said, running his hands through his dark hair. "That night at the rehearsal dinner," he began. "Stop," Nico whispered dangerously. "You really want to tell me about that night? About how you took my fiancé upstairs while I thanked our guests?" he demanded. Skylar stepped between them. "It was my fault, too. I was scared and confused," she admitted. "For 6 years. Nico's laugh was hollow. "That's quite a long time for confusion, Skylar. Tell me, were you confused every time you met him in hotel rooms? Every time you let me believe Merrick was mine?" he demanded. "We should have told you," Lachlan admitted when Skylar got pregnant. "Yes, you should have," Nico said with a terrible smile. "But you didn't, and now you'll both pay for that choice. Check your company accounts, brother. Consider them my parting gift," he warned. Lachlan's face went pale. He pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking as he accessed his banking app. "What have you done?" he demanded. "I transferred everything to offshore accounts. Your company's reserves, personal savings, investment portfolios, all gone," Nico replied coldly. "Consider it back payment for supporting your daughter all these years." "You can't do this," Lachlan's voice cracked. "My firm's projects and contracts. Should have thought about that before you were with my wife," Nico retorted, turning to Skylar. "As for you, I hope you enjoyed playing corporate wife. Time to find a real job," he said icily. "The dinner party tomorrow. Our friends, family, the perfect audience," Skylar whispered. Nico's smile widened. "For your big pregnancy announcement." "Oh wait, is there even a pregnancy? Or was that just another lie?" he asked. "I am pregnant," Skylar said softly, placing a hand on her stomach. 2 months along. "I was going to tell you, but let me guess, it's Lachlan's," she added. When neither spoke, Nico simply nodded. "Thought so. Well, congratulations. You'll have plenty of time to play happy family once I'm done with you both," he declared. "What are you planning?" Lachlan demanded. "Come to dinner tomorrow night," Nico replied in a falsely sweet tone. "Bring everyone, Mom, Dad, the whole lying lot of them. I have prepared quite a show," he announced. After Skylar and Lachlan left, Nico called his lawyer, Emerson, a shark in an expensive suit who had helped build his empire. "Everything's prepared," Emerson confirmed. Divorce papers citing infidelity, custody agreements relinquishing all rights to Merrick, company dissolution documents for Lachlan's firm. It's all ironclad. And the prenup's infidelity clause is bulletproof. Skylar gets nothing. No alimony, no property, no shares in Sinclair Technologies. "What about Merrick?" Nico asked, his throat burning. "DNA proves she's not yours. You have no legal obligation," Emerson explained. "I know my obligations," Nico cut him off. "Just make sure everything is ready for tomorrow morning," he ordered. After hanging up, Nico accessed the security cameras. Merrick was in the garden with her nanny, her dark hair shining in the sunlight. The sight that once brought him joy now twisted like a knife in his chest. His phone buzzed. Marlo was calling. He answered in an Arctic voice. "What?" "Skylar just left here in tears," his mother said. "Nico, please, let's discuss this as a family," she pleaded. "Family?" He scoffed. "Is that what we are? A family that watches one son betray another and says nothing? Tell me, mother, how much did it cost to buy your silence?" he demanded. "Those payments were for Merrick's future," she insisted. "Don't lie to me," he roared, slamming his fists on the desk. "You paid Skylar to keep quiet. You watched me raise another man's child and said nothing. You protected Lachlan as always," he accused. Marlo's voice cracked. "We thought we were protecting you." "Protecting me? By letting my wife and brother make a fool of me? By letting me raise another man's child?" Nico's voice was icy. "The truth is going to destroy all of you. What are you planning? Come to dinner tomorrow night. Bring Dad. Bring everyone. It's time for some family honesty," he declared. After ending the call, Nico summoned his tech team. They transformed the formal dining room into a multimedia stage for tomorrow's performance, installing hidden screens and speakers with military precision. "Test the projector again," he ordered. "I want every image crystal clear. No technical glitches." One technician hesitated. "Sir, the content is quite personal. Are you sure you want to expose my wife's affair with my brother to everyone we know?" Nico's smile was sharp. "Absolutely sure. They betrayed me in private. They can face the consequences in public." As evening approached, Nico heard Merrick's small footsteps in the hallway outside his study. A soft knock made him stiffen. "Daddy, can I come in?" Merrick asked. For a moment, he considered refusing, but the door opened and Merrick bounded in, clutching a drawing. "Look what I made. It's our family," she exclaimed. Nico stared at the crayon figures, Skylar, Merrick, all holding hands. A happy family. Another lie. He managed, his throat tight. "It's very nice." "Are you sad, Daddy?" Merrick asked as she climbed onto his lap. "Mommy was crying earlier, and Uncle Lachlan looks really mad," she observed. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, like when Tommy and I fight over toys at school," Nico explained gently. "It's nothing, sweetheart," he added. He gently set her down. "Why don't you go find your nanny? It's almost dinner time." "But you'll read me a story tonight, right? You promised," he reminded her. Merrick's lower lip trembled. "You promised," she repeated. Soon, Skylar appeared in the doorway. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you ready for dinner," she said. After they left, Nico pulled out his phone and dialed Jordan. "I need one more thing. The video footage from my wedding, including the reception speeches and the hotel surveillance clips from last night," he stated. Jordan confirmed, right after the hotel surveillance clips. "It's brutal, sir, watching Lachlan give his best man speech, knowing what happened the night before." "Perfect," Nico said with a cold smile. "Let them see exactly what they've done," he instructed. His phone buzzed with a text from Lachlan. "Please, brother, think about what you're doing. Once you do this, there's no going back." Nico typed back, "You should have thought about that 6 years ago." Later that night, after the house had gone quiet, Nico stood in Merrick's doorway. She slept peacefully, surrounded by stuffed animals, innocent of the storm about to break. For a moment, his resolve wavered. She needed him. Then Skylar's soft voice came from behind him. "She has a father," she said. Nico didn't turn around. Tommy started acting like one. "Is there nothing I can say?" Skylar asked, her voice cracking. "Nothing I can do to fix this," she admitted. "Fix this? Now you fixed our marriage with lies and betrayal," he said harshly. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me something, Skylar. All those nights I held you, kissed you, made love to you. Were you thinking of him? He demanded. Nico, were you laughing at me? Both of you, she cried. Poor, foolish Nico, raising my brother's child, never suspecting, he accused. It wasn't like that, she sobbed, tears streaming down her cheeks. I do love you, I love him too, she confessed. Get out of my sight. Nico's words were icy. Tomorrow, everyone will know exactly what kind of woman you are, and what kind of family we really have, he vowed. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. Nico stood in his bedroom suite, adjusting his black tie with surgical precision. The Armani suit he wore was all black, appropriate for both a dinner party and a funeral. Tonight, he would bury his marriage, his family, and every lie they'd built together. His phone had not stopped buzzing since dawn. Messages from Sterling begging him to reconsider, texts from Lachlan growing increasingly desperate, and tearful voicemails from Marlo pleading for family unity. He deleted them all without a glance. The caterers have arrived, Tatum reported from the doorway. And the security team is in position. No attempts to cancel. The attendance is confirmed, she added. She hesitated. Mr. Hawthorne, the nanny asked about Merrick. Should she stay upstairs during dinner? Yes, he said firmly. She doesn't need to witness this. Downstairs, the formal dining room had been transformed. The long mahogany table gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Hidden screens and thick manila envelopes containing evidence lay at each place setting. The video presentation was cued on the projector with multiple backups in place. Every image and every word was crystal clear. Nico surveyed his battlefield. At each place setting, a crystal wine glass caught the light, scattering rainbow fragments across the crisp white tablecloth. How fitting. Everything beautiful and broken at once. Daddy, Merrick's voice called as she ran down the grand staircase in a purple party dress, her dark curls bouncing. Do you like my dress? She asked. Mommy said it's a special dinner, Skylar said from the top of the stairs, wearing a black cocktail dress that highlighted her slight pregnancy curve. Listen to your father, he ordered firmly. Go with Ms. Wren. But why? I thought I could come to the party. Merrick whimpered, her lower lip trembling. After Merrick was led away by the nanny, Skylar descended the stairs gracefully. Last chance, she said softly. We can call this off. Find another way. Another lie, you mean? Nico's smile was sharp. No, Skylar. Tonight, everyone learns the truth, he declared. The doorbell rang, announcing the beginning of the end. Sterling and Marlo arrived first, both looking as if they had aged years overnight. Sterling's once commanding presence had diminished, and cracks appeared in Marlo's perfectly maintained facade. Son, Sterling, step forward, his father called in a quieter tone. I have reviewed bank statements showing your payoffs to Skylar. Tell me, Dad, how much does family loyalty cost these days? He demanded. We were trying to protect the family name, his father continued, then turned to the butler. Show them to the dining room, he ordered. More guests arrived, business associates, family friends, and relatives who had silently witnessed him raise another man's child. Each arrival unveiled another betrayal. Lachlan came last, looking haunted. Brother, one more word, Nico cut him off. And I have released the evidence to the press instead of just our guests. The choice is yours, he said. The dining room filled with forced chatter and nervous laughter. Skylar sat to Nico's right, barely touching her wine. Lachlan took his assigned seat directly across, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Before the proceedings began, Nico stood and tapped his glass. My wife has an announcement to make, he declared. Skylar's hand trembled as she rose, her eyes pleading with Nico. No, he said cruelly. Then allow me to share the news. My wife is pregnant, he announced. Murmurs of congratulation began but died away at his next words. Unfortunately, like our marriage, like our daughter, like everything else, it's built on lies. He pressed a button, and the hidden screens descended silently. "Let's start at the beginning," he said. The first image appeared. Skylar and Lachlan entering the Adler Hotel, date stamped 6 years ago, the night before my wedding, when my brother and fiancé decided loyalty was optional. Gasps echoed around the table as more images followed. Years of secret meetings, hidden touches, and stolen moments captured in damning detail. Nico stopped the presentation as Marlo pleaded. "Why?" "Afraid everyone will see how you helped cover it up," he continued. Another click revealed bank statements. $10,000 a month to keep the secret. "Tell me, Mother, was that the going rate for betrayal?" "Think about Merrick," Sterling tried. "She loves you, but Merrick has a real father." Nico laughed coldly. "Your perfect little world of lies ends tonight. Son, Marlo, get out, and don't ever contact me again." As guests filed out in shocked silence, some crying, others whispering furiously, Nico remained unmoved. Skylar was the last to leave. Pausing at the door, she asked, "What about Merrick?" "Ask her real father," Nico replied. "I'm sure Lachlan will be an excellent single parent, since he'll be too busy finding a real job," he added icily. When the house was empty, Nico poured himself a scotch and watched the city lights below. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages he would never answer. Tomorrow, the lawyers would handle everything. Tonight, he savored the destruction of those who had betrayed him. He would never forgive, never forget, and never look back. The morning after the dinner party, Nico stood in his home office, watching dawn break over the city. He had conquered twice, first through business, now through revenge. His phone had finally stopped buzzing, the desperate messages tapering off into silence. The doorbell rang, followed by Tatum's voice. "Mr. Hawthorne, Emerson is here with the final paperwork. Send him up." Nico straightened his tie, already armed for the day's battles. The lawyer entered carrying a thick briefcase, his expression grim. "The media have caught wind of it. Your family's implosion is trending on social media," Emerson said. "Good," Nico replied sharply. "Let them see exactly who they really are." Skylar's lawyer called to negotiate. "No negotiations," Nico snapped. "She signed a prenup. She broke it. End of discussion," he declared. Emerson then pulled out a document. The custody relinquishment. "Give it to me," he demanded. Nico grabbed the paper and signed his name with savage finality. "Let her real father deal with it," he said. The intercom buzzed again. "Mrs. Hawthorne is at the gate and quite insistent." Through the security feed, Nico watched Skylar arguing with the guards, her designer clothes wrinkled, her makeup smeared with tears. "Let her in," he ordered. Soon, Skylar burst into the office clutching her phone. "Have you seen the news? The gossip sites, they're destroying us," she cried. "Us?" Nico laughed coldly. "There is no us anymore." "You made sure of that," he replied. "Merrick's school called. Other parents are talking. They're saying horrible things," Skylar said. "Truth hurts, doesn't it?" Nico asked, turning to her. "How does it feel, Skylar, to have everyone know exactly what kind of woman you are?" He taunted. "I made mistakes, terrible ones. But Merrick shouldn't suffer like I did," she pleaded. His voice cracked like a whip. "Watching you and Lachlan play happy family with my daughter." "Oh, not my daughter, is she?" he snarled. Tears streamed down her face. "Please, we can work something out. For Merrick's sake," she begged. He thrust the custody papers at her. "I've signed away all rights. Merrick is now Lachlan's problem, just like you are," he said. "You don't mean that," Skylar's voice shook. "You've raised her for 4 years. You can't just stop loving her, like you stopped loving me," she asked. Nico's laugh was bitter. "Or did you ever start? Was any of it real, Skylar? Or was I just a convenient cover while you were with my brother?" he demanded. Tatum's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Lachlan Hawthorne is here." Security is trying to stop him. The office door burst open. Lachlan looked worse than Skylar. His expensive suit rumpled and dark circles under his eyes. "You bastard," Lachlan snarled at Nico. "My firm's accounts are frozen. Projects are halted. Clients are calling from my head office. Karma is a harsh lesson, isn't it?" he accused. "How does it feel, brother, watching everything you built crumble?" Nico asked coldly. "This isn't about business," Lachlan advanced aggressively. "You're destroying families, jobs, lives, just as you destroyed mine," he cried. Nico's voice dropped dangerously. "You want to talk about destruction? Let's talk about you being with my wife the night before my wedding. Let's talk about watching me raise your daughter for 4 years while you played the caring uncle," he roared. Lachlan ran his hands through his hair. "I wanted to tell you when Skylar got pregnant, but you didn't," he admitted. Nico's words cut like glass. "Instead, you let me build a life on lies. Now you can build your own life, with your own money," he said. "But I built that company like I built a marriage, a family, a life," Lachlan protested. Nico laughed bitterly. "Now you can build your own life. Except you have none left. I have already sent proof of your ethical breaches to the architecture board. Expect your license to be revoked soon," Nico warned. "You can't do this," Lachlan cried. "I already have," Nico replied coldly. "You're finished, Lachlan. Your company, your reputation, your career, it's all gone, just like my trust in you," he declared. Skylar stepped between them. "What about Merrick? She needs stability and support. She needs her real father," she pleaded. Nico's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Congratulations, Lachlan. You have full custody. Better start looking for a job that doesn't require professional credentials. I hear fast food is always hiring," he mocked. The intercom buzzed again. "Sir, Sterling and Marlo Hawthorne have arrived." Nico's smile was predatory. "Let's make this a proper family reunion," he said. Sterling and Marlo rushed in, both looking haunted, the morning news clearly taking its toll. The Hawthorne family scandal was spreading like wildfire. Marlo's voice trembled. "The country club is reviewing our membership. Our friends won't return calls. It's tragic." Nico's voice dripped with mockery. "Social suicide must be so difficult, almost as difficult as watching your son betray his brother while you paid to keep it quiet." "We were trying to protect the family name," Sterling said, stepping forward. "Now your father's real estate partners are pulling out," he added. Marlo gasped. "The Hawthorne name is toxic." "Good," Nico replied coldly. "Let it burn. Let everyone see exactly who we really are." "Son, please," Sterling pleaded in a commanding tone. "We can still contain this." Nico stood slowly. "Like you contained Lachlan's affair. Like you contained the truth about Merrick," he sneered. He pressed a button on his phone. "Tatum, send in the papers," he ordered. His assistant entered with dissolution papers. Sterling demanded, "What are these?" Nico's smile was cold. "I'm legally separating myself from the Hawthorne family. New name, new identity, complete separation from the family trust and businesses." "You can't," Marlo gasped. "The family legacy is poison," he declared. Nico signed the papers with flourish. "I'm done with all of you, your lies, your cover-ups, your precious social standing." "What about Merrick?" Skylar tried again. "You'll have to answer that at the dinner party," Nico said in a flat tone. "All of you have 1 hour to collect Merrick's things before security removes you," he ordered. "What about the weekend benefit?" Sterling tried. Nico's smile was sharp. "I've doubled my usual donation in my new name. The press release goes out tomorrow, announcing my complete separation from the Hawthorne family due to irreconcilable ethical differences." "You're not just punishing us," Lachlan cried. "You're destroying yourself." "No, brother. I'm freeing myself," Nico said coldly. He turned to his laptop. By the way, those offshore accounts where I transferred your company's money are being donated to various charities. Imagine the headlines. Disgraced architect, stolen funds, aid for children in need. Lachlan shouted. That money wasn't stolen. Nico retorted. Consider it retroactive child support for 4 years of raising your daughter, he said. Marlo whispered. The press will destroy us. They already are, Nico replied, glancing at his laptop displaying news headlines. The headlines read, Hawthorne family scandal. Exposes wife's affair with brother. Real estate empire crumbles. Architecture firm under investigation. Sterling sank into a chair. Everything we built was on lies, Nico said coldly. He checked his watch. 50 minutes left. Better start packing Merrick's things, unless you want security dragging you out, he threatened. Skylar moved toward the door, then paused. What will you tell people about why you're walking away from Merrick? She asked. The truth, he replied. She has 2 loving parents, her mother and her real father. I'm just the man you all betrayed, he added icily. Skylar's voice broke. She'll hate us when she's older, when she understands. Good, Nico said, turning back to his work. She should now get out. In the following weeks, the Hawthorne family's carefully constructed facade crumbled spectacularly. Sterling's real estate empire hemorrhaged investors as business partners launched hostile takeovers. The once dominant man was reduced to selling assets at a fraction of their worth. Sterling Hawthorne is in the lobby, Tatum reported one morning. It's about the Madison Avenue project. Tell him to talk to my lawyers, she added. Nico didn't look up. He's no longer family, just another failed businessman, he stated. Lachlan's fall was even more dramatic. The architecture board suspended his license pending an ethics investigation. His firm's clients fled en masse, projects were canceled, and his reputation became toxic. Your brother is trying to sell this house, Emerson mentioned during a meeting. He's not my brother, Nico said coldly. And soon, he won't have a house either. Make sure our subsidiary outbids him, then turn it into low-income housing. Let him watch everything he valued turn to dust, Nico ordered. Skylar's social circle evaporated overnight. Country clubs revoked memberships and private school mothers petitioned to have Merrick removed from their children's classes. Mrs. Hawthorne, former Mrs. Hawthorne, was denied entry to the Children's Hospital Gala. She claimed she had been blacklisted, but Nico said simply, society handles its own outcasts. The media feasted on every detail. Paparazzi camped outside Lachlan's apartment, photographing Skylar's visits with Merrick. Tabloids ran pictures of Sterling and Marlo being turned away from elite restaurants. Gossip columns dissected every sordid detail of the family's implosion. One morning, Nico received a thick envelope confirming his legal name change. He was no longer a Hawthorne. The family name, like their lies, was behind him. Your new business cards, Mr. Sinclair, Tatum said as she placed them on his desk. Nico admired the clean design. There was no trace of his former family left. His phone buzzed with another desperate message from Marlo. Please, son, your father's health is failing from the stress. He deleted it without reading further. Let them suffer. Let them feel a fraction of the pain they've caused me, he thought. 6 months later, Nico stood in his new penthouse office, watching the city lights flicker like stars below. Sinclair Technologies had not only survived the Hawthorne scandal but thrived, his ruthless reputation now adding a dangerous edge to his business dealings. The final divorce paperwork was completed. Custody of Merrick was finalized, full custody granted to Lachlan with visitation rights for Skylar. Tatum hesitated and asked if he would reconsider. No, Nico said firmly. The child has her real father. Let him deal with it, he stated. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Sinclair, Jordan Reeves is here. The PI entered, looking grimmer than usual. I thought you wanted to see this yourself, he said, laying out several photographs taken just yesterday. They showed Lachlan, unshaven and haggard, leaving a job interview at a small construction firm. Skylar, in simple department store attire working as a retail clerk, and Sterling, aged beyond his years, selling his prized car collection. Jordan reported, "They're broke." Sterling's company filed for bankruptcy. Lachlan is living in a 2-bedroom apartment, trying to support Merrick on construction wages. Skylar's parents won't help. They're as disgusted as everyone else. "Good," Nico said with a satisfied smile. At the hospital, Skylar lost the baby. Stress, probably. Lachlan was with her, but Jordan shrugged. Their relationship is strained. Raising a child on minimum wage isn't the romantic fantasy they imagined. The intercom buzzed again. "Sir, Merrick's teacher is online. There's trouble at school." "Not my problem," Nico said sharply. "Forward all school communications to Lachlan," he ordered. "You've destroyed them completely," Jordan observed. "Financially, socially, personally, they'll never recover." "No, they won't," Nico replied. He turned back to the window. "They chose their path when they chose betrayal," he murmured. Later that night, alone in his penthouse, Nico opened his safe and removed the last photo of Merrick he had kept, her 4th birthday, just months before he discovered the truth. She was smiling with frosting on her nose, looking at him with pure love. For a moment, old pain threatened to surface. Then he remembered the DNA test, the years of lies, the betrayal that had poisoned everything. With deliberate calm, he dropped the photo into the shredder. "The past is ash. From those ashes, I have risen stronger, harder, unstoppable. Let them live with their choices, their consequences, their regrets." He had a new life, a new name, a new future. And in that future, there was no room for forgiveness. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.